Okay, so I've been considering something recently. By the way, Deltarune theories are back. Yay! Well, I mean, they might be for a while. I got done working on Nick and Lazuli, like the next few episodes of Nick and Lazuli. So I do have a bit more free time to do stuff now, and I can do like a few Deltarune theories here and there. I don't want to do too many before Chapter 5 comes out, because every time I do one of these theories, I make like a very out there take, and this is no exception. All of my Deltarune theories are very like out there takes, where we just have to see if I'm right or wrong. I make a lot of predictions about how the game's gonna go in the future, and I I do I am hoping that I don't know. I'm hoping I can get at least something right with these numerous predictions. So I wanted to talk about Chapter 5 in the sense of how are we going to up the stakes from meeting a Titan last time, right? How are we going to up those stakes? Might be a little difficult to up the stakes from us fighting the Hell Spawn in the previous chapter. Well, I was kind of thinking, what if Toby Fox did something very unique for Chapter 5? So, I think the fan base as a whole is pretty set on it being the Flower Kingdom, but we got to keep in mind, Deltarune loves to subvert our expectations, and it loves to break its own rules. So, if instead of one dark world that we explore through the entirety of Chapter 5, what if we get three? Now mm, that's that's a big claim. Three dark worlds in Chapter 5? I'd imagine they'd each be like a little bit shorter than the Dark Worlds we've experienced in the past. Right, because Chapter 4 technically had three Dark Worlds. They were all inside the church, but they were still very distinct segments of the Dark World. And so I'm kind of wondering if Chapter 5 will have three different Dark Worlds that you can choose from at the start of the day. But then at the end of Chapter 5, the roaring starts. Uh, uh. Chapter 6, if Toby wants to use, like, numerology and, like, the symbolic meanings of numbers, and, like, 6 is usually associated with hell, then it makes sense for Chapter 6 to be associated with Hell on Earth Day, and then Chapter 7 will be when we get to subvert Hell on Earth Day, when we get to um because like if 6 is like the hell number and then 7 is like the heaven number. So I'm kind of wondering if the world does end at Chapter 6, like everything is submerged in darkness, this is the one ending. But then after the world has ended, after everything has been washed black by the ink, after the rain has come to wash everything away, then we get to write our own story in Chapter 7. Like, the world is destroyed, but since we are a little light, we can overwrite the darkness that has now fallen upon everything. Right? And this might be what Toby Fox meant when he said one ending. There is one ending to the world, but there's something more important than finding the ending, and that's finding what happens after the ending. Writing a new story after the ending. With the white pen of hope, our light inside our soul. Um, I think that could be interesting. Now, I was thinking, it would be really cool if, in order to save the world, we got resets involved with this somehow. We could get resets involved with this somehow, because that's kind of the way it worked in Undertale, right? You get the normal ending, and then you go back to immediately before you fight Asgore, and then you can get, like, the good ending. Um, with that, that was just like one sort of rollback. That was sort of like one rollback. But I am kind of wondering if there could be some benefit to rolling back the game to the beginning of an entire chapter to do an entire chapter differently. That would be really cool. And so I'm kind of wondering, we have one code from chapter 4. And I mean, like, the jury's out on whether or not the code to get into the inner sanctum is the same code to get into the shelter. I mean, like, it's pretty obvious that the desk guitar code was for the shelter. But the code to get, like, into the inner sanctum of the church, that could be the church's code. But, um, it could just be like a very realistic thing of, oh, that's the password that Alvin uses for everything, or whatever. Like, I could see that working. Um, but for now, we know we have one of the codes. We have 1225. Um, and so with that, uh, I'm kind of wondering if Chapter 5 starts and we'll only have enough time to do one of these Dark Worlds before the Roaring starts. So you go through like a whole chapter of a Dark World, and then the Roaring starts, like at the end of the festival. Um, and so you're basically out of time to visit the other two. But that's okay, because the only reason you'd want to go to either of these Dark Worlds is to get the code. You'll want to go to these Dark Worlds to get the codes that you're missing. Now, the thing is, I do think that Chris, Susie, and Rousey all have enough character development to reasonably go into um, the Roaring. I don't think Noelle does. I don't think Noelle has enough character development to go into the apocalypse of the story. I could be wrong about that, though. I could be wrong. Um, so I think it would be cool if Chapter 5 starts, and while the festival's going on, we either have the choice to go to Asgore's house or to Carol's house, and we have like a whole adventure in there. Somewhere along the lines, we try to read the code, and every time we try to read the code, Chris, like, takes us out of the chest and tries to, like, put us somewhere where we can be contained. But we rebel against Chris, and we try to find out these codes to get into the bunker. Um, and so, in a sense, it's like resetting the chapter back to get more knowledge for what we really want to do, and that's get into this bunker. That's get into this bunker. This is the big thing we've been wanting to do for a long time. Now, I will address a counter argument. So, in the Chapter 4 prophecy panels, it did mention the Flower King, the man trapped in an asylum. But interestingly enough, the prophecy never says we fight the Flower King. Now, yes, of course, the game files do call him Boss 3, but those are the game files, and the thing with game files is that, like, these are a very meta thing. It's like, I don't know how much we should analyze the name of a game file to determine its lore, unless if it's like in Gaster's signature all caps font. Like, unless it's unless it's like Penumbra Phantasm Gaster Freedom motif. I don't think we have to worry too much about game file names. And it's just called so like, this is a boss that exists in the game. That's different than if it's a boss that you're gonna fight in game. That is a different thing. Now, I could see there being a sort of order that the game sort of pushes you into resetting Chapter 5 with. So like maybe you go to Asgore first because that's the one we're all expecting. But maybe after you reset, you instead realize, no wait, what if we go to Carol's house this time? What if we go to the holiday house and find a dark world that's in there somewhere, right? And then you're like, oh shit, we have all the codes now. We can get into this bunker before the roaring starts. Now, what will be in the bunker? Well, there could be a lot of things. It could be the secret boss. It could be the secret boss. We go into the bunker and we fight the secret boss. That that really could happen. We go into the bunker to fight the secret boss. Uh, Alternatively, it could be something we use to get whatever Deltarune's good ending is. If there is like a good ending after the ending of the world or whatever. Now, the thing I will say about this theory is that this is all speculative. In all likelihood, we're probably just gonna go to the Flower King shop, and then whatever happens in Chapter 6 happens in Chapter 6. Like, that is the most likely one. But I've been thinking, um, the Church Dark World, if Alvin is part of the conspiracy or whatever, and Chapter 5 is going to be about the conspiracy, the Roaring Group Chat. The Roaring Group Chat, for those of you that don't know, there's like a few very suspicious hometown characters that when you think of them all together, they sort of form the um the chess pieces on a board. And these suspicious members of hometown are Asgore the king, Carol the queen, Alvin the bishop, Knight the knight, whoever the knight's gonna be. I mean, we all know about the knight. And then Chris is also suspicious. And then Chris could be the rook, but also Papyrus is just like missing, and I could also see him being the rook and Chris being a pawn or something. Like, I could see something crazy like that. My theory was always that the Roaring Group Chat was the fulfillment of chess theory. It was never like the bosses at the end of each chapter. It was, we're supposed to be thinking about chess, and then we're supposed to apply that to everyone that has any ounce of suspicion in hometown. Because there is definitely a conspiracy. We know that Carol and Asgore are part of it. Alvin's doing weird things for the sake of doing weird things, and we don't know why. Like, we don't know why Alvin just dug up his dad's corpse, basically. We don't know why Alvin did that. That was a little goofy for Alvin to do. But apart from that, like, Carol's definitely got some stuff going on with Chris, and Carol's definitely got some stuff going on with Asgore, and she knows about the soul, so that's strange. At the end of the day, we can never be certain what Chapter 5 is going to hold in store. Um, Another thing, oh yeah, I remember why I brought up the church stuff is because the Church Dark World was definitely stylized to be a lot like Waterfall. And I'm kind of wondering, if we want some Undertale nostalgia bait right before the roaring happens, like we want a little bit more Undertale nostalgia bait. We've got the Ruin slash New Home, which is like Asgore's sort of area. This is like the Ruin slash New Home. The Holiday Manor would fit Snowden really well. And then, if this is the true lab, if the bunker is like the true lab, then it could have Hotland slash Core vibes. It could have Hotland vibes to it. Sansa's Papyrus's house could also be a dark world. That's like part of this whole thing, this whole conspiracy, whatever's going on. Um, a lot of possibilities, a lot of possibilities. I just want to consider stuff because I think this would be a really cool way to do Chapter 5. And this isn't even like a full encapsulation of everything that could happen in Chapter 5. One thing I do know is that I want Noelle to be heavily involved with Chapter 5. I feel like it's time to bring Noelle back into the story. We've gotten plenty of good character development between Chris, Susie, and Rousey. We've gotten a lot of character development between them. I think the main character development we're missing for Chris is we need to understand like Chris's relationship with the player a lot more, which I am hoping Chapter 5 will go into as well. Um, my only problem with this idea is that resetting an entire chapter could uh resetting an entire chapter might backtrack character development. And that's the big thing I'm worried with this idea for chapter 5. Backtracking an entire chapter could erase some of the necessary character development. And so it's like we could go through this world or this world and this world, and they'd all like present the same story beats, right? It'd be the same story beats that get the characters to like their proper whatever's. And I mean, like if there is like 3 Dark Worlds for Chapter 5, this could be a reason why there's 3 different save files. It's like the save files exist so that you can kind of like go through Chapter 5 multiple times and not have to erase everything, right? Something like that. I don't know. It's it's gonna be hard to figure out where this story goes, and like if there is something like this, like Chapter 6, there would basically have to be 3 different versions of Chapter 6 as well. Even if Chapter 6 takes place in the same like trying to survive the roaring in the midst of hometown or whatever, then like all the character interactions need to be based on whatever dark world they went to. So there'd basically be like 3 different versions of Chapter 6, which is just a lot of work for Toby Fox to do. I, the thing is, like, I'm not expecting this. I'm not really expecting this to be the case. But I do see potential for this idea. I think Toby Fox likes to mess with our interpretations of stories. He likes to set up something and then like completely subvert it, but subvert it in a way where it's clear he did not just pull this out of his ass. This is what was intended the whole time. Now, granted, okay, I'm already like a conspiracy board theorist, but I feel like everything I've just explained in this video has been like super conspiracy board theorist. I mean, like, I just went crazy with this one. Um, an alternative idea I had, um, was that Chapter 5 could be. It could be the same idea of like mini Dark Worlds. That's like you go to multiple mini Dark Worlds throughout the chapter, but uh, but you actually go to them like in a specific order. So it's not like you have to reset the game to do each mini Dark World. It's just like you get to do them later. I'm not gonna worry about the thing's permanently broken. It's too annoying to try to erase all these lines that I drew. The undo doesn't work after a certain amount of things, so it's fricked forever. Get the Diki. Get Nidiki. I spelled it wrong. Nidiki. Yeah, so I don't know, I just want to consider this idea. I want to consider this idea for Chapter 5. I want to consider this idea, this like strange kind of out there idea of like alternate paths that lead to the same outcome. Alternate paths or whatever. Um I don't know if I explained myself well in this theory. It's been a while since I made Deltarune theories, so I don't know if like I explained myself the best I could have in this video. I definitely think like my explanation was probably lacking from like my other Deltarune videos where it was like I was super passionate about it. This one I just made like a conspiracy board basically. And it's fitting because this is the chapter that I feel like will cover the conspiracy, right? It's just a chapter that's going to cover elements of that conspiracy, I'm sure. We know Asgore's probably going to play a role in Chapter 5, and Carol will probably play a role in Chapter 5 and or 6. I like the idea of the roaring happening in Chapter 6, because it's like the hell stuff. And then, I like the idea of I like the idea of Chapter 7 being our new story, our new like heavenly story, where it's like we rewrite the darkness through the light. But then I remember there was like this old theory about there being like chapters 8 through 10, you know? Like there's this crazy idea of there being chapters 8 through 10 because I think there was like graphics prepared for them. And I don't know if that was Toby Fox just doing like a test or something, or if he genuinely considered the idea of making 10 chapters. And it's just, there is more stuff that happens after the roaring. Who knows? This story could go anywhere. This story could go anywhere. This right here, this isn't even Chris. This isn't even Chris. It was Frisk the whole time. That wasn't even Chris. This was Frisk. That's who that was. I think. Hang on. I think Frisk technically has like a brighter shade of yellow for the thing. Yeah, it's like this is it's Frisk. That was never Chris. That was never Chris. There was never even a Chris in Deltarune. That was just Frisk the whole time. And this ain't even Asgore. This is not Asgore. This ain't Asgore. This ain't Asgore right here. This is freaking like a Homestuck fan. This isn't even Asgore. This is like some random Homestuck fan. And then this has never once been Carol. This has just been the hang on, what's the hang on. That no, that doesn't quite look right. Yeah, that looks right. That's just been the Roaring Night the whole time. This just the Roaring Night. This is all this has ever been, has just been the Roaring Night. Look, it's the Roaring Night. Look. And here's the thing. There's never been nothing up here. There's never been nothing. It's just been like, hang on. There's never been nothing up here. It's just been freaking it's been it's just been it's been underscore him the whole time. It's been underscore him. It's been him. It's been underscore him the whole time. And also his pet cat. Na, na, na,